Religious figures like pastors, priests, Sunday school teachers, and even just devout followers are meant to be kind, compassionate, and caring. They claim that their life's work is to spread joy, faith, and kindness, but unfortunately that isn't always the way. From the first and only Roman Catholic priest to be executed in the United States, Schmidt, to our subject today, a Sunday school teacher and devout Lutheran, it's shown that even if you vow to devote your life to good, the bad can still seep in. Today's subject is a story of family and betrayal. This is a brief history of John List. As always, this episode of A Brief History contains graphic content that may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. John Emil List was born on September 17, 1925 in Bay City, Michigan, to parents John Frederick List and Alma Maria Barbara Florence List, as their only child. John Sr. was a devout Lutheran and a Sunday school teacher who shared and passed on his commitment to his faith to his only son. By all accounts, John Jr. was a bright child who was eager to learn and did well in both normal school and Sunday school. In 1943, at age 18, John enlisted in the U.S. Army to serve during World War II as a laboratory technician. John remained in the Army until 1946 when he was discharged. After leaving the Army, John applied and was accepted to the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, where he studied business administration, earning himself a bachelor's degree. John continued his higher-level education and ended up receiving a master's degree in accounting, which would eventually become a career that treated him exceptionally well, while his Sunday school teachings and devout religious faith would always be a constant in his life, regardless of his career choices. Unfortunately, in 1950, the Korean War was coming to a head and John was recalled to active duty, ending up at Fort Eustis in Virginia. During his time at Fort Eustis, John met the widow of a man killed in action in Korea by the name of Helen Morris Taylor. Helen and John had a whirlwind romance and seemed made for each other. Just a year later, the couple was married on December 1st, 1951, and Helen, along with her young daughter Brenda, moved to Northern California, where John was able to serve as an Army accountant. John served until 1952 and began taking accounting jobs across the country. Eventually, they settled as he became an audit supervisor for a paper company in Kalamazoo, Michigan. John moved up the ranks quickly at the paper company, eventually being promoted to general supervisor for the accounting department. During their time in Michigan, John and Helen had 3 children of their own in addition to Brenda from Helen's previous husband. The oldest daughter was Patricia, followed by son John Jr., and the youngest son Frederick. In 1960, Brenda was married and left the home. The same year, John moved his family to Rochester, New York to take a high-paying job with Xerox. Just 5 years later, he left that job as well to take the position as the vice president of a bank in New Jersey. With this job, he was able to move his family, including his aging mother Alma, into the Westfield home known as Breeze Knoll, a 19-room Victorian mansion. From the time of her oldest daughter leaving the home, Helen started to noticeably have issues with drinking and was becoming increasingly unstable. John, while portraying a much more put-together look, also seemed to be on the odd side. John was highly religious and had a need for order and control within his home. Everything had a place, and in its place it stayed. John rarely smiled, was not very well liked among his coworkers, and was even known to mow his lawn in a suit and tie. In 1971, John's oldest daughter Patricia was picked up by police for being on the streets after midnight and smoking. Patricia around this time also confessed to her parents that she had hopes of becoming an actress in her life. John became convinced she was a problem and that she would be going directly to hell. He also noticed that his wife, despite her own issues, did her best to protect their daughter from him, which only fueled his delusions that his daughter was an excessive sinner and a problematic person. In October of that same year, John List applied for firearm registration for, quote, home protection. This home protection would turn out to be much more than anyone could have imagined. On November 7th, 1971, while the kids were at school, John shot his wife Helen in the back of the head, followed by shooting his mother Alma above her left eye, killing them both instantly. Not long after, Patricia and Frederick arrived home from school. As the oldest daughter and youngest son entered the house, John shot both of them in the back of the head, also killing them instantly. The middle son, John Jr., wouldn't arrive home until much later due to a soccer game, so John Sr. made himself a lunch, drove down to the bank, closed down his accounts and his mother's accounts, and then went to his son's soccer game. John List cheered on his son in the game, drove him back to their home, and shot him repeatedly in the face and chest. After systematically murdering his entire family, John pulled their bodies into the ballroom of the mansion, where he placed them in sleeping bags, with the exception of his mother. John had shot his mother while she was in her attic apartment, and according to John, she was too large to drag to the ballroom, so he was forced to leave her body in the apartment. John left a 5-page handwritten note on the desk in the study for his pastor, which contained ramblings that he had seen too much evil in the world and had been forced to kill his family to save their souls. Before finally leaving the home, John cleaned up the crime scenes, turned the air conditioning as high as it would go, cut himself out of every family photo in the house, and drove off. Due to the family's normally reclusive behavior and John's careful planning, it would take a month for anyone to realize that the family was even missing. John had been methodical prior to the murders, stopping all deliveries to the home, sending in notes to schools and work, and telling anyone who would listen that they would be visiting family, while leaving every single light in their mansion burning. Neighbors grew suspicious as they started to notice the lights burning out in the mansion, with no apparent movement to change or fix them. Police investigated and found the bodies in the ballroom as well as the body in the attic apartment, and a manhunt was on for John List. John List evaded arrest until June 1st, 1989. In the interim between his murders and his capture, John had traveled and taken on a new name. Under his alias Peter Clark, he lived mostly outside of Denver, Colorado, joined a Lutheran congregation, and ran a carpool for the shut-ins of the church community, while also working as a comptroller at a paper box manufacturer. In 1989, John List was featured on the wildly popular television show America's Most Wanted, and was quickly outed after a neighbor recognized him. John stood by his alias, but was eventually presented with irrefutable evidence that he had committed the crimes, and finally confessed to his actual identity in February of 1990. During his trial, John List presented the jury with an exceptional sob story about the devastating state of their finances, skimming money from his mother's bank accounts, dealing with his wife's alcoholism, and apparently untreated syphilis from her first husband. John claimed he had been pressured into marriage and had concerns that his first daughter didn't even belong to him. A court-appointed psychiatrist eventually diagnosed John with obsessive-compulsive personality disorder and stated that he believed John thought he had only 2 options: accept humiliation by seeking welfare and assistance, or kill his family and send their souls to heaven. On April 12, 1990, John List was convicted of 5 counts of first-degree murder and still denied responsibility for his actions, stating, "I feel that because of my mental state at the time, I was unaccountable for what happened. I ask all affected by this for their forgiveness, understanding, and prayer." During an interview with Connie Chung in 2002, John List stated that he wished he could have joined his family, but suicide would have barred him from heaven and he wanted to be reunited with his loved ones eventually. Around this time, John also began to express remorse for what he had done to his family. John List died on March 21, 2008, at the age of 82 from complications of pneumonia. The house, Breeze Knoll, had been destroyed by arson in August of 1972, not even a year after the murders. The arson of Breeze Knoll has never been solved. Notably destroyed during the fire was the stained glass skylight of the ballroom, which is rumored to have been a Tiffany original worth $500,000 by today's standards. What are your thoughts? Was this a methodical murder planned by someone who happened to suffer from mental health issues? Or were John List's mental health issues the causes of the death for his family? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Before we go, I want to take a moment to thank Plumbelina for working on this build with me. Be sure to check out her channel and the exterior build of this home in the link in the description box below. Thank you for joining me for another episode of A Brief History. If you'd like to suggest any future episodes or discuss past episodes, don't forget to join the Discord linked in the description below. Thank you to my patrons and channel members for your support on this series. It is much appreciated. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime Sims content every Friday or Saturday. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.